play Divine Mercy Radio, KMDG, and that'll get you to the Hayes Station. Last but not least, we are live on Rumble, Facebook, and YouTube, so you can catch us there. Please continue to tune in whichever way you choose. Hickox, I want to thank them huge for my lunch today. I had the fish. It's a Friday, and so we do Meatless Fridays. And it's wonderful. Had some fish with some asparagus and rice and one of those delicious rolls. They're fantastic. So Hickok Steakhouse, they have hand-cut steaks, salmon fillets, made from scratch soups and rolls, an extensive wine list, banquet seating for 40, a very large menu that's also done in a unique dining experience in a Western atmosphere. The owners there are Greg Whitehair, Damon Hoare, and owner and manager Oscar Runyon. If you go in there and support them, which I ask that you should, would you please also mention, we heard you mentioned on Divine Mercy Radio, and we appreciate you supporting them because we do appreciate their support. We are on the Fall Carathon, Light in the Darkness. We have that goal of $125,000. We'll get some updates on where we are at here in a little bit and see how close we are to our goal. But I do know we have about $10,000 left in matching funds. So let's cut that in half this hour. Let's get some donors going. Call 785-621-4110. We're going to get our next guest on the line in just a minute. But first, let's get to that trivia question. All right. Your trivia question for the 12 o'clock hour. What is the fifth commandment? Is it you shall not kill, you shall not steal, you shall not bear false witness, or you shall not covet? What is the fifth commandment? A, you shall not kill. B, you shall not steal. C, you shall not bear false witness, or D, you shall not covet. 785-621-4110. That's 785-621-4110. All right, let's see if we have our guests on the line. Ladies, are you there?
We are here.
Fantastic. That's awesome. That's kind of like, what's that show with the elephant where they have the little whoos or whatever, and they're trying to shout, "We're here." What's that?
Horton Hears a Who.
Horton Hears a Who. Yes, that's what it sounded like. We're here. We're here. I can hear you. One of the best lines, actually, that's so funny that came up. I didn't mean that at all. But one of the best lines from that is, a person is a person no matter how small. So, like, what a great line for what we're going to be talking about.
It's perfect.
All right. Well, ladies, it is so wonderful that you are joining us. For all those out there listening, we have Mackenzie Ayers. Is it Ayers?
Yes, you got it.
You're okay. Perfect. All right. So we have Mackenzie Ayers and Danielle Underwood, and they are here from Kansans for Life. They're going to be talking about the Aftermath Tour, and that's that tour that came through a while back where it was that visual aid that had all those little babies at different stages of development, and they had them on the tables down at the little pavilion here off of Main Street, and it was just a very good thing to help us understand life, the tragedy of abortion, and all kinds of other things connected to that. So Danielle serves as the Associate Executive Director for Kansans for Life. She leads the organization and provides strategic direction for Kansans for Life's educational, legislative, and advocacy work across Kansas. Mackenzie serves as Communications Director for Kansans for Life. She helps oversee statewide media, digital strategy, and public messaging for KFL's educational and advocacy efforts. How are we doing today?
We're doing great. We're really happy to be here with you guys.
Well, fantastic. Thank you so much. And maybe we can get started with that because I'm sure there's plenty of people out there that have heard of Kansans for Life, but maybe everybody doesn't know what it is. So if you guys can give us some background into what is Kansans for Life in the first place, and then also what led you to become involved with Kansans for Life and what inspires you to continue that work today.
I'd be happy to start us off. This is Danielle.
Thank you.
And yeah, Kansans for Life. We're a more than 40-year-old nonprofit. We work in advocacy and educational outreach. We're dedicated to protecting and defending the right to life of all innocent humans from the moment of conception until natural death. And we work to protect not just the preborn lives, the preborn babies and their mothers, but we also work to protect the medically fragile and the elderly. So we truly are a womb to tomb organization. We believe in that, just that beautiful explanation that Pope St. John Paul II gave us in the Gospel of Life, and how essential it is to protect life at every stage.
Fantastic. And can you guys give us a little bit of a background into how each one of you became involved with this wonderful organization? And then also tell us, what is it that your everyday experiences, what you see happening that really inspires you to keep pushing forward?
Mackenzie, why don't you take that first?
I can do that. So I became involved with Kansans for Life in 2022, shortly after college. And, I've always had a conviction that every life is valuable and deserves protection. And thankfully, God beautifully placed me here. Definitely wasn't expecting it, but that's how he works. And, one of my favorite things about working here is that this mission truly is unchanging. It doesn't move with politics or trends. It's unchanging, and knowing that the work we do has real impact for real people gives me strength even on the very difficult days. So that's how I got involved, and why I keep doing what we're doing, because this really is a cause like no other.
Okay. And Danielle, how about you?
Yeah. So I'm sure, as many of your listeners, I grew up in a wonderful faith-filled home, and I knew two things for sure. I knew that we loved Jesus, and I knew that we were pro-life. But just like every young person who grows up, we all have to claim that identity for ourselves and decide what we truly believe. And when I was in college, I had a couple great opportunities. One, to read the Gospel of Life that I just mentioned, Evangeline Vitae, and also I got to spend some time out at a place called Focus on the Family in Colorado Springs, Colorado. And those two things really helped me solidify and claim this belief for myself. I knew that I wanted to protect these most vulnerable people in our society, and that we have great challenges in our world today, and that someone needs to speak up for these people who have no voice. And so that really drew me into this. And I spent about 10 years working at a university, and I worked as communications director there at a research institute. And then I joined KFL in 2021, right before the Value Them Both Amendment was beginning to become, something that Kansans were aware of. So Mackenzie and I have been in this fight together now for several years, and it's been quite an adventure, and so many opportunities still ahead of us. We see good things happening, and so that's really what motivates me as I talk to Kansans. And you mentioned the Aftermath tour, which I know we're going to talk about here in a second. But we see so much pro-life excitement among the people of Kansas who know that our state took a wrong turn, and we've got to get back to being the pro-life state we know we are. So we're excited to be in this, and we feel very called that the Lord specifically called us into this mission.
Thank you so much on that. We are listening to Divine Mercy Radio's Fall Carathon, Light in the Darkness. We have Mackenzie and Danielle on. They're going to be talking more about Kansans for Life, the Aftermath Tour, all kinds of pro-life issues. And that is one of those areas that we need to shine a light in the darkness. And so please continue to listen. Please continue to pray. And if you can, donate at 785-621-4110. That's 785-621-4110. I also want to thank Norma Pipkin, who donated $250. And with the matching funds, that becomes $500. So thank you very much, Norma, for that donation. I also want to remind people of the trivia questions. I'll see if we got a winner. And if we did, I won't read it again. But if we didn't, we'll get that back out here in a little bit, and we'll get a second one in about 15 or 20 minutes. The number to call is 785-621-4110. That's 785-621-4110 to give us a donation. We are completely listener funded, and so we thank you for that. Getting back with Mackenzie and Danielle, talking about Kansans for Life. So let's then hop right into it if we can, ladies, about the Aftermath tour. So first, maybe you can tell us, what is the background in it? You know, how did it get started? How has it grown? Where, you know, where across the United States have you gone? Or I mean, across Kansas have you gone? And then what does it look like in the future?
Absolutely. Well, I can kind of start by just painting the picture of what this is and how it came to be, and then Danielle can talk a little bit more about what we've seen and where it's headed. Um, well, one of the first things I want to talk about, if you haven't heard about what Aftermath is, it's a statewide traveling memorial that honors the 19,467 lives lost to abortion here in Kansas in 2023. And we recognize that that number is large. And many people, if you say that number, they know it's large. But for many, it's hard to grasp just how large that is. And our team, you know, the heart behind this is that this is a tragic reality that's unfolding that many people don't know about. And we wanted to create something that would cut through the noise and show in a human way, a compassionate way, just the scale of lives lost. So we're talking about something that spans the size of about a basketball court. There are accompanying banners that explain how we here in Kansas got to this situation, which, if you know, is the catalyst for this was a 2019 state Supreme Court ruling that created a right to an abortion in our state constitution. And since then, there's just been detrimental things that have been happening. Safeguards that protect women are slowly being struck down and taken away. And so we want to show people what's happening because many people don't know. And what we've seen has been just a fantastic response from the community. And Danielle, you can maybe talk a little bit more about where we've gone and what we've seen.
Oh, yes, absolutely. So in the fall, we began this traveling memorial in September, and really from September through the end of October, we were nonstop. We held 11 one-day events, and as you mentioned, we were in Hayes and we were in Colby, we were in Garden City, Dodge. We went really to the four corners of Kansas. We also got out to Atchison and lots of places all over the state. And our purpose was to take this to the people of Kansas. The first time that we ever got to kind of dip our toes into this, we actually brought a slightly smaller size memorial to the March and Rally for Life that happens every January in Topeka at our state capitol. And, you know, that we brought the tables of the fetal models. These are medical grade silicone models in the sizes of the babies who lost their lives in Kansas. But it was such a powerful display. People had such reactions to it. You know, people wanted to stay and pray. They just felt so moved by this that we decided that that couldn't just be a one-day event. We needed to get that out beyond the people of Topeka, Kansas, and whoever was able to make it there on one day. And so we decided to launch this into truly a traveling memorial so we could take it out to affect lots of families, students, people of all ages. And what we saw were mothers and fathers who were bringing their children to come and view this memorial, help explain this issue to them, and help their children understand why it's essential that we speak up for these vulnerable little people in our world, and why we have got to keep this fight to protect these lives. So we wanted to keep going with it. It was an amazing phase one of that. We had schools that bused some of their students to come see this. We had theology classes. We had the senior class of one of the local Catholic high schools came. So it was just a powerful, powerful way to start conversations and especially help reach the young people who we know are opponents of life are absolutely targeting young people to try to propagandize them into believing that somehow abortion is a solution, which we all know is not the case. So we know about the harms that it causes, not just to the baby, but also to the mother and really to the family. And so this was an amazing opportunity for us to bring this incredible educational project, this one-day event, to lots of different communities. And we are not done yet. So we are about ready to launch into phase 2 in the spring. And we're already taking requests for churches and schools that would like to partner with us, or groups of people who just believe so strongly that this is something that needs to come to their community.
So one of the things that we get to do here in Hayes is send students from Thomas More Prep Marion to the March for Life every year. And it's a beautiful thing. And I've been several times. I know that you guys mentioned that you were there. Are you directly partnered with the March for Life, or what does that look like?
You want to take that, Mackenzie?
Yeah. So the Kansas March and Rally for Life is held every year in Topeka in January. And so this year it's happening on Wednesday, January 28th. And this is just an opportunity for Kansans from all across the state to come together. And really the purpose is we want to show our legislators, we want to encourage them to boldly stand for life. And so it's really great to see all of our pro-life legislators out there on the Capitol steps, usually in frigid cold weather. And this is the start of their legislative session. January is when that starts. And so this gives an opportunity for them to see thousands of Kansans there advocating for our pro-life agenda. And yes, this is something that Kansans for Life does, the rally. There are other events that are happening throughout the day. And all of that information is at kfl.org/March for Life. But there's the Catholic Ignite event at the Topeka Performing Arts Center that happens before the March and Rally. And so we're very grateful to be joined with our Catholic friends for the March and Rally for Life.
Wonderful. And I apologize. We send our kids to Washington, D.C. to the National March. Are you guys aligned with them at all either?
We've had some conversations with them just about kind of coordinating and working together. Those are two separate, distinct efforts.
Gotcha.
So, and both important. We have battles that are happening at the federal level and battles that are happening at the state level. And so as Kansans for Life, we focus just completely, solely on Kansas and, what we need to do. And really that's become, ever since the overturn of Roe, that has become more and more and more important, because the biggest battles have now moved to the states. So praise God for the overturn of Roe, but we just know that means that we have to become more active at the state level instead of less active. So that's where we focus our energy.
There you go.
We're so grateful for all of our friends who are in this fight with us.
Absolutely. And I'm still, as you mentioned earlier, I'm dumbfounded at how our Kansas Supreme Court supposedly found a right to abortion in the right to life language. Like anybody who can look at that and be like, something fishy going on here. So yes, you're right. That's something that we all need to join together and make sure that as soon as we can, we can get more legislation in here that is right to life for all people, and that we uphold the true Constitution. So thank you so much for doing that. But that does kind of lead me to wonder, as you're traveling around with this aftermath tour, how have you been received in most of the places that you've gone? Has it been pretty much mostly peaceful? Have you run into anybody who has opposed you, or what does that look like?
Those are great questions. I think, I think we could kind of tackle both sides of that. We were asked two main questions as we were preparing to launch that tour. And one is this something that will be frightening for children, or something that, families will not feel comfortable bringing their children to? And then the second question was, is this something that is really just going to be preaching to the choir? Is this only going to attract pro-life people? So I'll take the first one, and then I'm going to pass it to Mackenzie for the second one.
Okay.
But on the first question, we very carefully planned this to be something that was tasteful, and, it could be something that any age person could come to and learn something that have a powerful experience, so that they could walk away from that with a stronger pro-life identity. And so, but when we went into that, we thought, well, we'll be cautious and we'll just say, we'll recommend this for maybe grades 5 and up. But what we ended up seeing were moms and dads who were bringing children of all ages, everything from infants in their arms up to their college age children, and even some adult children that parents went home and then brought them back with them because they felt that this was such an important way for them to start conversations with their children about why we've got to protect life. These, most vulnerable, the babies in the womb who have no voice. So we saw just beautiful examples. I can think of a couple different moments, one specifically in Hayes, where there was a father and a daughter who came, and they spent probably 45 minutes just kind of walking through and talking. And you could see this father just having this quiet conversation with his daughter. I'm guessing she was maybe 8 or 9. And just the love between them was so strong. And it was a beautiful moment where this father was helping his daughter understand why he was so committed to this issue and this cause. And you could see that moment of bonding between them. And then she just really gently reached out and picked up a baby and held it in her little hands and cradled that baby. And it was beautiful because you saw how she saw with her own eyes the beauty of life, in the womb. So it was a beautiful moment. And then, on the other side of this, I'm going to kick that to Mackenzie.
Yeah, absolutely. One of the other questions that we get asked a lot is, are we preaching to the choir? Are only pro-life people going to be impacted by this? And one of the things we were really intentional about when designing this display was we wanted to make sure that we came across as compassionate to many women who have maybe experienced an abortion. We know that 1 in 4 women have experienced an abortion. And so we wanted to make sure that we were leading with compassion, and a powerful example of the tour's impact came actually from a woman who visited the display alone. She arrived, she really didn't talk to any of our staff members. She just moved slowly through the display, reading everything without speaking to anyone. And she just was staring at those babies and really took her time. And finally, she approached one of our staff members and said, I am one of those 19,467 women. And she was very open with our staff members about the pain that she had been carrying from that. And she even asked to hold one of those models.
Oh my.
And in that moment, we were able to give her resources and emotional support. And I think she left probably with a little bit more hope than she came in with. And so that maybe was a healing moment for her to be able to start her healing journey. And so encounters like this show that Aftermath, it's not just educating people on what's happening in our state, it's offering moments for healing. And that was one of those stories that I think we will remember for the rest of our lives. And so that's another example of why we do what we do and what keeps us in this fight.
That's so wonderful. I'm wondering if you have other stories. Do you have other impactful stories that you might share with us? Because that one is so beautiful for a couple of reasons. One of those reasons is it really does show when you're called Kansans for life. And we'll get into some of the misconceptions about things here in a little bit. But, that is a common one that people will throw out. Oh, you pro-life people, you're actually just pro-baby. You don't care about anything that happens after. And here you are witnessing to a mother that's been through this, that's carrying that grief, and are trying to help her in her current situation. So that just kind of blows that misconception out of the water. But also, I love those stories that you hear of how it has impacted people. So do you have any more of those as how it has impacted other people, or even both of you yourselves? How has this impacted you if you were to reflect on it and look back across the time spent with this tour?
So I do have a couple other stories I would be happy to share with you.
That would be great.
Yeah. So one in particular, just back to is encountering this display going to move people to become more pro-life? And so we saw example after example that it is, yes, it does move people to see this. It's one of those things that once you see this, you can't unsee it. And so it just moves you at a very deep level. So there was one young man who was actually traveling through one of the towns where we had done one of these Aftermath events. We were in the process of doing it. And he actually stopped because his dog, he was doing a road trip and his dog was riding with him, and he needed to let the dog out to relieve himself. And so as he was walking his dog, he came across our exhibit, and he was so curious about what he was seeing that he couldn't resist. He needed to see what was happening. And so he walked up, and he actually was coming from Indiana and going to Colorado. And so he said, where I come from in Indiana, there are really strong laws against abortion. And so, that's not really happening in the state where I'm at. But, I kind of am not sure where I stand on this, because I think, well, there's hard cases. And so he kind of just started up a conversation with our team member. And by the end of that conversation, he said, this has actually given me a lot to think about. And I kind of think that maybe I've been wrong on this issue.
Wow.
And so he left. What is the chance encounter that happened there? And I can only say that that had to be God ordained, that he would be there at the right moment, at the right time, and in the frame of mind where he would be open to this and walk away as a changed man. So that's exciting, because you just never know who is going to be coming through on any given day, whether it's a woman who is post-abortive and in pain and regrets and, needs to find healing so she can move forward, or if it's a family that needs an opportunity to help their children to understand the issue. You don't know who's coming through. And so that was a pretty exciting effect from one of these days. And then the other one I wanted to bring up is another site where we had a young man. Each one of these events required a pretty massive group of volunteers to help put it on. I mean, we needed a lot of strong men, especially, to help us unload all these 50-pound cases that we carried this display in, and 22 tables of these fetal models. And so we took a lot of volunteers participated, and there was one day that a volunteer came up to our team member who was organizing, and he said, I need you to teach me how to kind of take people through this, because I have a really powerful story. I am actually, when my mother was pregnant with me, she was told that I had some physical, some problems, and that the pregnancy was going to be a difficult pregnancy. And they told her to abort me, and she refused. And so I'm here today because my mom valued life. And so he felt so strongly that he absolutely wanted to be, he wanted an opportunity to be that voice and say, I'm an example of why the pro-life issue is so important. I'm here to tell you that my life matters, and so does every one of theirs. And so he was so excited to do it. And he ended up, I think, leading about 6 or 7 different groups through the display to help them kind of understand the issue. So we saw all kinds of impacts. We saw great energy come from all of these events, and groups forming across the state that are now organizing their own chapters to keep the momentum going in their home communities.
Fantastic. I want to throw that trivia question back out there. I know it's over the lunch hour and it's hard to get people, but I guarantee there's people out there listening. So call 785-621-4110. I forgot to do it a second time, so that's on me. We'll get a couple questions here quickly then. This was the first one. I don't see that we had a winner, but I know that there are lots of people that know this. What's the 5th commandment? Is it A, you shall not kill, B, you shall not steal, C, you shall not bear false witness, or D, you shall not covet? 785-621-4110. We are on our fall carathon on Divine Mercy Radio, Light in the Darkness, and we are talking with Mackenzie and Danielle. They're helping us to shine a light in the darkness, talking about Kansans for Life, talking about this wonderful aftermath tour that they had going on. Please continue to listen. Please continue to support us. 785-621-4110. And also call in to answer that question. What is the 5th commandment? Think about our topic going right now. Is it A, you shall not kill, B, you shall not steal, C, you shall not bear false witness, or D, you shall not covet? Call 785-621-4110. All right, back to Mackenzie and Danielle. Was there anything else you wanted to mention on our impactful stories before we move on here?
I think that, Danielle covered it, but we've just really seen how God's hand has been on Aftermath throughout this whole entire process. So if people want more information about the Aftermath tour specifically, or maybe they want to bring it to their parish or community, if you visit aftermathks.com, you can find all of the information and to be added to the wait list.
Okay, thank you so much. And then to those people out there, who do have some misconceptions, or even those people who don't, a lot of times we don't understand everything that an organization does. So can you help us to understand how Kansans for Life engages with communities to educate people on life issues?
That's a great question, Cody. Thank you so much for asking that. Yes, there are definitely some misconceptions about our work at Kansans for Life. One thing that is really helpful for people to understand is that Kansans for Life is a nonpartisan organization. So we do not, we don't represent a political party, but we represent an issue. And our issue, of course, is the pro-life issue. And again, that's from conception to natural death. We're working for progress towards protection for all innocent humans from that stage of beginning to end, natural end and beginning. We work across faith backgrounds. And so we obviously have a ton of support within the Catholic community. A lot of us are Catholics, but we work very closely. And one of the things I love about our organization is that we do bring together Catholics and Protestants, all kinds of Christians, and even some people who are pro-life but are not yet of our faith background. And so we bring all of these people together to work in a coordinated, united way so that we can move forward the cause for life. And then the other thing I would say is that people tend to know us for one of three things, and that is our education and outreach, which Aftermath is a great example of our education and outreach. We work closely with schools and churches to provide pro-life education. Our second thing is our advocacy. And so many people know us for the work that we do in advancing pro-life laws, pro-life policies, and doing that through the legislature. And then thirdly, we also work to endorse quality pro-life candidates. And so we really have three branches to our organization. A lot of people know us for the endorsements that we provide, during election season, but that's just one part of our work. So it's we have this three-part structure that makes us very unique, and it allows us to be very flexible in the way that we are able to work in this space and continue to, again, advance the cause of life in every means possible.
That's absolutely wonderful. Thank you for giving us some background on that. And then maybe we can even look at, have either of you been able to have conversations with some of those people who do have misunderstandings? Do you have more examples too of, you already gave some examples, but, those are the things that we really like hearing. And we also really like to help us in our own walk as pro-life people as to, if we get in a conversation with people, how do we properly address that? How do we have good conversations? You know what I'm saying here? Can you give us some insight into what that might look like?
Yeah, absolutely. I think, one of the things that we prioritize is to lead by listening. The most effective conversations start with respect. And so we want to make sure that we're listening to understand the person's experiences and the emotions behind their views, because once you build that foundation, you can share your perspective in a calm, human-centered way. And so, yes, of course, we want to change hearts and minds, but our goal is not to win a debate on the spot. It's to build trust with the person that we're talking to, so meaningful conversations can continue over time. And we had many conversations during the Aftermath tour with maybe people who weren't with us, but once you got to actually talk to those people and develop, just listen to them and hear them out. Maybe we didn't change their opinion, but their guard came down, and they certainly were more open to this thing that we were talking about. And so one of the main things that we try to do, we're we are working to shift the conversation so that women are fully seen and respected. And, like we explained earlier with some of these aftermath stories, many people carry personal experiences that we don't know about. And so we approach every conversation with compassion, because that's truly the way that we change culture and we move hearts and minds.
Yeah, thank you. Really quickly, I want to thank Jody Patton, who donated $500, and that becomes a $1,000 donation. Thank you so much, Jody. I also want to apologize. There was some breakdown in communication, so I apologize for that. That I kind of figured, I was like, how do we not have a winner to this yet? So we ended up putting 3 people's names into the bucket. Jackie Skolot, Kristen Eilert, and Norma Pipkin. They all get the question right. That's sorry. I apologize. We've got a few more people in there because of that breakdown in communication. But hey, I don't think anybody's going to worry that we're trying to get more people in a drawing for a Catholic gift certificate. So congratulations to you, ladies. Correct answer. What's the 5th commandment? You shall not kill. Let's get that next question going then. All right. Phones ready. 785-621-4110. Here we go. Where did the Jewish people gather to read God's word? Was it A, Nathan's office? I'm kidding. That's not actually what. I just want to see if he's listening and laughing. Where did the Jewish people gather to read God's word? Is it A, synagogue, B, temple, C, secret caves, or D, private homes? Where did the Jewish people gather to read God's word? A, synagogue, B, temple, C, secret caves, D, private homes. Call 785-621-4110. That's 785-621-4110. Also, if you would like to make a pledge, we have our pledge drive going on. That's what you're listening to right now. I know it would be awesome if we always did this, because we have great guests like we do right now with Mackenzie and Danielle talking about Kansans for life. But unfortunately, we only get to do it twice a year. This twice a year does, though, pay for the lights to be on. It makes sure that we're paying our licensing fees and all kinds of other things. But also, we take your donations and we make sure that we are getting Christ's content out there, that we're making sure that Jesus's gospel message, that he is the light to the world, is getting out there. Please help us to continue doing that. 1, send us your prayers. 2, if you can, call 785-621-4110. And also, if you're hearing that and you're like, nah, someone will do it, you might be the someone. And it might just be the Holy Spirit saying, hey, I want you to prayerfully consider this. $5, $10, $50, 100, 500, whatever it is. 785-621-4110. Let's get, before the end of this hour, let's see if we can cut our matching funds in half. 785-621-4110. All right. Straight back to Mackenzie and Danielle talking about Kansans for life. So, ladies, let's hop back into our conversation. We were talking about approaching conversations about life in a way that promotes understanding and respect. And so I so much appreciate you talking about that. And also talking about misconceptions. And so in conversations that you've had or in interactions that you've had, how can those two things work against each other or work with each other? The misconceptions and the understanding of how to have a proper communication.
Danielle, you want to take that one?
That's a big question.
Yes, it is. Sorry.
Yeah, I think, that's the challenge of conversation and communication in general, is first of all, understanding, are we speaking in the same language?
Oh, good.
Even one of the things we battle so much in our issue is the fact that the mainstream media creates, they use so many, what we would call a euphemism. So they use a word to kind of cover up the facts, right? To make something seem like it's, not as egregious, not as terrible as it truly is. So I'm trying to think of an example that would be a good way to, well, I would say,
pro-choice.
Yeah, perfect. Yes, that's a most perfect example. Yes, so many words that the media especially uses to cover up the truth. And so that was one of the big challenges, and one of the big reasons that we decided to do Aftermath is because we realize that there's a scarcity of truth out there in just the general public. I mean, people aren't being told the full story, and that's, you know, you don't know, is that intentional? Is that just something that they want to cover other things? But the fact that these numbers of abortions in our state are skyrocketing is not being talked about nearly enough. And the why, and Mackenzie alluded to the why being, you know, partly because of that legal decision that took place. And part of it is the fact that, you know, other states around us that have much more protective laws for babies in the womb, the places that had been functioning as abortion facilities in those states are actually now serving as travel centers to funnel women to Kansas. And so, you know, the fact that our abortion numbers are skyrocketing here is very much, it's a true challenge for us, because women are being bused and flown to Kansas for abortion procedures. And so we have to awaken Kansans to the reality of what's happening here, so that a person who you can't fight on a battlefield with a blindfold on. We have to have our blinders off. We have to understand the reality we're working in. And so that's a huge part of us starting conversations. We start with the truth, and we know that we have the truth. We have God's truth. We also have scientific truth about, you know, that the very earliest moments of life, and how that person is a distinct person from their mother with a totally separate genetic sequence, and so many things we know from science. We need the truth to get out there. And so that's why we want to take the truth in this very powerful and visual way to the people of Kansas.
That is so wonderful. Thank you for that. How are we then, or how is Kansans for Life working to get legislation passed? What issues are you working on and currently focused on trying to make this situation a better situation?
Yeah, that's a great question. We've had 3 amazing years as a legislature where, you know, we came out with some pretty audacious goals. People thought we were a little bit crazy when we came out just, you know, after the amendment. You know, people thought, well, the pro-life movement is done for in the state. We thought, absolutely not. We are moving forward, and we're going to come back with some really important moves. And so since that time, we've been able to secure $3 million in state funding for the over 50 pregnancy centers in our state. That was a super exciting win that we had last year. We also, you know, we were able to pass the tax credit for private donors to those pregnancy centers. Last session, we were able to work on getting some resources for families that receive either a prenatal or a postnatal diagnosis for their child of some kind of chromosomal, some kind of issue. So whether that would be Down syndrome or, you know, something similar to that, making sure that those families had resources so that they would not be pushed into abortion just because they didn't know how to move forward with a diagnosis like that. We had some great wins, and one of the most exciting things we had last session was the fact that we were able to get scientific. So in the middle and high schools in the state, in middle and high school, that whole age range now is going to be provided video education of the fetal development. So development inside the womb. So a baby's development, believe it or not, was actually not being taught in most of the high schools in our state. Human development was not being taught from those earliest stages. And we knew that that was such a crucial piece of information for our young people to be receiving, that they would get good scientific information about it. Again, once you see it, you can't unsee it. And so now those students across the state are being given an opportunity to see video education so that they can learn about that development of the baby. So exciting things have been happening, and we've got big plans ahead. Mackenzie, you want to jump in?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think, you know, Danielle, talked about how we are working to support our pregnancy resource centers, and that's going to continue. We know that nationally and here in Kansas, or mainly nationally, our pregnancy resource centers, they do amazing work, but unfortunately they are being targeted with baseless attacks. And so we know that we need to act to protect and equip the more than 50 pregnancy resource centers across Kansas. There was actually a Supreme Court hearing earlier this week regarding a pregnancy resource center in New Jersey who has been the focus of an attack by the Attorney General in New Jersey, who is targeting a pregnancy resource center, asking them to, giving them subpoenas, basically demanding donor lists and private internal documents. And so the Supreme Court heard arguments about whether people can challenge these government reaches. And so we know that it's happening across the country, where we're seeing the great work of these pregnancy centers who are providing life-affirming care for women, free resources, free diapers, formula, adoption counseling. They're being targeted by the abortion industry. And so we are going to be working to protect them, because local and state governments are being discriminatory against them. And we know that's not okay. And Danielle, actually, we talked about this on our podcast not too long ago in September. So if you want to learn more about that specific issue, you can go to our website, kfl.org, to find our podcast episodes. But our legislative agenda, it's going to be great, and we'll talk more about it at our Kansas March and Rally for Life in January of next year. Danielle, was there anything else you wanted to add on that?
Yeah, I think the only other thing I would add is that, we've seen exciting things happen this year in terms of the big, beautiful bill at the federal level, where funding that had been previously directed to Planned Parenthood and other abortion facilities is on a 1-year pause. And that may not sound like a big deal, but that is a huge deal, because it makes up so much of the abortion industry's funding, is that federal funding stream. And so we have an opportunity here in Kansas to shine a light. I mean, to use that inertia there to shine a light on really the substandard, quote unquote, medical services that are being offered at these abortion provider facilities. So if they are actually, performing abortions, we want them to be scrutinized as to whether or not they deserve to be receiving any funding at all for any kind of quote unquote medical services. So it's really an important moment for us to raise that question and to see if we can amplify the effect by withholding state Medicaid dollars from those facilities.
That would be absolutely awesome. Thank you for working on that. That is so much appreciated. And to all of our listeners, please pray for that, because that would be a great thing if we can get to this legislation that they're working on passed and make it so that pro-life pregnancy centers are where people start going for real answers. I want to get the second trivia question one more time. We have about 9 minutes left here, so you have a little bit of time to call in and answer this question. Where did the Jewish people gather to read God's word? Was it A, synagogue? Was it B, temple? Was it C, Divine Mercy Radio lunchroom? Was it D, Nathan's office? A, synagogue. B, temple. C, it's not C or D. Is it synagogue or temple? Where do the Jewish people gather to read God's word? 785-621-4110. 785-621-4110. I don't know why they let me have control of the microphone. We are talking with Mackenzie and Danielle from Kansans for Life, and this has been absolutely great. We thank them so much for what they're doing, and we want to get right back into it, and maybe you can help us then, ladies, to know ways in which we can help out, ways that we can collaborate with you, and ways that you already are collaborating with churches, schools, community organizations, so that maybe if it's already going on around us, we could help do the same thing.
Danielle, you want to take that one?
I was going to hand it to you.
Okay, well, I can take it. Yeah. We're so blessed to partner with so many different schools and churches and community organizations across the state. I would say, the best way right now for churches and schools to partner with us is by hosting an Aftermath event. You can go to aftermathks.com. There's a button on the home screen that will take you to a form you can fill out if you're interested in bringing it to your community. But right now, that is the best way to partner with us. We are eager to get phase 2 rolling in the spring. We're constantly trying to reach all different types of people to join in on this movement. So, we are on social media, trying to change hearts and minds there. I think one of the most important things is reaching our young people, as Danielle has talked about. And so we have college chapters across the state, and they have just been amazing advocates for life. Some of the things that they are doing has been incredible to watch. But we want to make sure that we are not only equipping college students with what they need to be able to fight back on their college campuses, but also making sure that we're passing the torch and making sure that the next generation is rising up in their pro-life voices. And so we actually do have a scholarship for students, and they can find more information out about that on our website. But you know what? We're blessed to have so many amazing partners all across the state. But the best way right now is we would love to bring Aftermath to your church. So if you are interested, you can go to aftermathks.com.
That is great information. And then you have a bunch of volunteers that work for you. And so maybe can you give us some insight, because maybe there are other people out there that are like, you know what, I'd like to do more than just ask them to come here or something like that, but maybe I would like to volunteer for Kansans for Life. How can people get involved, and what does it look like when they do?
That's great.
Absolutely. Yeah, Danielle, you take it.
Yeah, I would love to. So, one of the exciting things we're seeing is really those local groups that are beginning to form, either form brand new or possibly some that kind of had started to, kind of peter out a little bit, and now they're reforming or just getting re-energized. So our organization, we are at our heart, we are a grassroots organization. And so we love to work with people who are locally invested. They know their own community. They know where the opportunities are to really get the pro-life message out. And, where you live is where you're going to have the most impact. So we have a wonderful grassroots manager named Josh McDonald, who is working with teams all across the state to get them kind of up and going and give them the resources they need to organize their own groups and create their own plans, and really just kind of give ideas and resources and assistance to them. And so if somebody is interested in doing that, they should absolutely reach out to us. Our email address is kfl@kfl.org. It's very easy to remember. And if somebody is interested in forming a group, forming a chapter, and they want to be affiliated with us, then reach out to us and let us know. Other ways that people can be involved with us is by sharing our podcast that Mackenzie just mentioned. Those are great ways. We go in depth on a lot of these different conversations and really help break it down. So we go deep into some of these different topics and help people understand what's really happening. Those can be shared very easily. There's lots of ways to get involved. There's county fairs where, people will, they'll want to take the pro-life message to a county fair. And really that just takes a small team of volunteers that organize themselves. And we help equip them with the materials that they'll need for those kind of outreach efforts. So there are so many ways to be involved. And really, it's just, we're looking for passionate people who feel this calling in their heart and know that they want to invest their time into this cause, because it is the human rights issue of our time. And it's so essential that we turn our state into a much better direction. We kind of reawaken the people of Kansas with this essential fight. So anyway, I think there are so many ways we could go on and on about ways to be involved. Definitely mark your calendars for that Kansas March and Rally for Life in Topeka. It's not far away, just a short car ride, and can do get yourself a caravan of vehicles or rent a bus or take a church bus or something, but come and be with us in January. And again, Mackenzie, you want to give the information on that one more time?
Yeah, it's Wednesday, January 28th, and the information is at kfl.org/March for Life.
It has been wonderful to have you ladies. In the next 60 seconds, is there anything that we didn't cover that you think any of our listeners need to know before we go today?
I would say keep the fight. We're so thankful for, the people listening to this. You guys are the foot soldiers. You're the way that we change hearts and minds. And I would just say keep the faith. It's a cause like no other. We can never give up. And we are just going to be working this year like crazy to get some of our legislative priorities passed and reaching out to schools and just continuing to carry out this work because we know it's too important and we can never give up. And we're just thankful.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Mackenzie. Thank you so much, Danielle. We appreciate everything you're doing. We will pray for you, and we really appreciate you coming on today. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you as well.
You're listening to Divine Mercy Radio's Fall Carathon. Just had another good one with Mackenzie and Danielle. Go back and watch that one again on YouTube. Here we go. I have several people to thank, some congratulations and good stuff here. So first one is I want to congratulate Jody Patton. Where did the Jewish people gather to read God's word? That was in the synagogues. So thank you so much, Jody, for listening and getting that correct. Also, I want to thank Shirley Thompson from Osborne. She pledges $100 in honor of her brother, Stan Mayers. So thank you so much, Shirley. And yes, your brother was a great man, and really appreciate everything that your family, extended family, has done for our community. So thank you so much for donating in his cause. And that becomes a $200 donation. We also want to thank Karen Beaker. Karen actually, I think, is coming on here in just a minute. But Karen is a friend of mine from a while back. She got to teach several of my children. Great lady, has a wonderful job, does wonderful things in our community. And she donated $250. So that becomes a $500 donation with those matching funds. You're listening to Divine Mercy Radio's Fall Carathon, Light in the Darkness on 101.7 KJDM, Lindsborg and Salina, 105.7 KMDG Hayes, 88.1 KRTT Great Bend, 88.1 KVDM Hayes, 89.1 KGOH Colby, and 107.3 K297 AI Hill City. So wherever you are listening, take us with you. If you go anywhere else, you can listen at dvmercy.com. You can listen on the smartphone app. You can get us on Amazon Alexa. You can watch us on Facebook, YouTube, Rumble. We've got all kinds of places.